This right here is something I've been building for the past few weeks. Apart from it being a giant red monolith, it is actually something that has the ability to count to a GOOGOL. Whether it can even possibly do that is another question.
So first off, what the heck is a GOOGOL? Well, let me just quickly write it out. It's pretty big. That is one. And if you want to be able to count every single grain of sand on the earth, well, you put a one around here, and it's somewhere in this ballpark. So if I put a one here, this is about where Carl Sagan says, well, this is the total number of elementary particles in the universe. Give or take a few gazillion, trillion, or whatever. And let's say if I wanted to build a counter that would count from here to here, it would need more energy than is in the whole entire universe.
So that's an awfully tall order, and yeah, you've guessed it, it's going to be impossible for this to count to a GOOGOL, but it's going to have a damn good go at trying. When I turn this on to finally count, I'm going to try my darn hardest to never let it turn off in my lifetime. And then hopefully after that, some other silly Billy is going to maintain this and just keep it alive and keep it going and see how far we can get this thing to count. So I've built this thing with maintenance and improvements in mind. It's built in a modular way. It's not using a computer. The thing is, if you use a computer, you're sort of keeping all of your eggs in one basket, because if that computer breaks, well, the count stops. This thing is built in such a way that if one little thing breaks on it, well, you can replace that and it doesn't ruin the whole count. And as the count increases, in my mind, it gets more important to me, and I'm going to put more effort into trying to keep it alive. So maybe in 10 years, to stop corrosion, for instance, or something, it gets put in a bath of oil or in a vacuum or something crazy like that. All of the counters and voice cards are made to be improved throughout its lifetime, because you never know, in about 100 years or something, then there might be nuclear fusion counters or something that we can fit on the cards, and then obviously it's going to get upgraded and upgraded. As long as the count still counts, it's fine by me. Going to be a little bit of a ship of thesis kind of situation, but we've got to deal with what is actually physically possible. This thing is currently using logic circuitry, which is nice and reliable and easily replaceable, but that could change in the future. Anyway, let's have a quick look at what's going on right now.
So a little bit over a month ago now, on a vlog on Patreon, I mentioned this idea, and then there was a suggestion of a logic chip by Jared Anderson, which would in essence compress my design down, and it was called the 4026 chip. There's a drawing of this logic chip right here. You can see it's got 16 legs on it, and there's 16 legs on this chip. So this is a circuit surrounding this 4026 chip. What this 4026 chip is doing is it's receiving something called a clock. What a clock is this thing right here, which is causing this LED to turn on and off and on and off. And if you look carefully, this LED flashes at the same time these numbers count over and over. If I use this knob right here and speed up this LED, you'll notice the numbers getting faster and quicker as well. This wire right here is coming from the same leg on this chip that is causing this LED to flash. If I plug this in, this goes over to pin 1 of the 4026 chip, which is the clock input. This chip has all of the logic inside of it to count up to 10, and as it counts up to 10, it turns on all of the little LEDs in this 7-segment display. You look at the pinouts, you can see these letters. These correspond to different segments on this 7-segment display. If this counts to 10, how do we count any further? Well, if you look at this LED counts 10 times as slowly as this. It comes from one of the outputs of the 4026 chip, which basically divides this clock by 10. So if we make this circuit again, put it next to it, we use this LED to clock it, the next number is going to be 10 times as slow as this one. And if we take this principle and just basically make 100 of these, one after the other, then yeah, you're counting to a GOOGOL.
The bus boards even have abilities to be able to accept multiple power supplies and backup batteries, so you can sort of relay and hot swap power supplies and batteries and stuff, so it never ever turns off.
This is a circuit you saw on the breadboard on a circuit board. It's even got a removable 7-segment display, so if the 7-segment display burns out, you can just replace it. And let's say the counter breaks or there's something slightly up with it, well, you can remove it from the bus board. You don't need to turn anything off. So with all of this in mind, I need to make 100 of these. Oh dear.
So after about a week and a half of grueling soldering, there is now 100 counters. They're all laid out quite nicely on this table. Yeah, I've tested them all. They all function. I've built some spares as well. I've got a load of chips. So even if these chips die at some point, I have a stash. And the same goes for the 7-segment displays. And over here are 10 bus boards. Behind each of these slots of the counters are isolating pins, which means you can isolate the power and the clocks and stuff from the different counters, so you can remove it without risk of anything weird happening. There's also a couple of backup 555 timer clocks. This project would not be complete without a whole load of 3D printing. Yes, I did about 36 hours non-stop of printing in the end. And yeah, at night, I got up every 2 hours. I was pretty tired, and I have to say I'm a little bit tired now because I've literally, this last hour, I've finished 3D printing everything. There's a bunch of acrylic over here which are used as shelves to isolate the bottom of the bus boards. And right now, just to get it going, there's a set of 2 power supplies. Just gonna make sure that I'm able to hot swap. And then in a month, I'm gonna concentrate more on making the power supply a lot more bomb proof than it is now, because it's got to last for a long time and just not turn off, basically. And out of shot over here is a red acrylic case. I made it out of 5 bits of 5 centimeter thick, 5 millimeter thick acrylic plastic, and it's kind of a dark red color. I'm sort of making it to reminisce the 1970s digital, you know, display screens. Anyway, enough of this talking, let's just get building.
Okie dokie, so first we drill some holes into these acrylic plastic pieces which act as shelves, and then we put the shelf brackets together. These are 3D printed parts that were 3D printed on a smaller 3D printer, so I've got to glue them together to make it all work. And then we put the actual bus boards onto the shelves. This stops your fingers from shorting things, because when you're pulling them out and repairing things, you know, you're liable to do that because it's going to always be on. And then we put all of the counterboards on. Just look at that. Oh, it's coming together. It looks so nice. This is my favorite time lapse because it's like hours and hours of soldering just all culminating into...
All 10 of the counter shelves are now assembled. It looks pretty mental. I sort of had an idea of what it was going to look like, but I didn't really think it was going to look this cool. The next parts that I need to put on are these bits. These bits go over the front of the screens just to give it a bit more rigidity and to keep them all in place to stop circuits shorting and this and that and the other.
Now we get back the acrylic case, and now we put all of the 3D printed parts onto it. I've already drilled holes into the cases for where all of these shelf units go. It sort of looks like something you'd see in a darkroom in the 70s. Not really a counter thing, but now we put in all the counters. I've tested it all before, but you know, there's still liable for something to go wrong. Then I put all of the isolation pins in the back and just keep on popping it together, wire it up, and yeah, just keep on going. There's not much I can really say now.
There was a bit of a strange occurrence, I've got to be honest. I was testing it, the first 2 rows, just to see if it was actually going to work and the rows were going to carry over to each other. And the thing is, with logic chips, which is what this is using, they usually turn on in random bits and random numbers. There's no real set, like, on state that they have. But the weird thing is when I turned it on the first time, they all came out as 6s. Now, don't tell me that is a very uncomfortable coincidence. It's a little bit strange. The number was 6. It's a bit scary, to be honest. And if it does happen again, hopefully there is another explanation besides the obvious. That maybe somehow, because there's so many of them, all of the actual logic is somehow simultaneously kind of synced together in a kind of sync lock. If anybody actually knows the answer instead of just a weird guess of like rough physics pulled from the ether, then please comment below. Anyway, I'm going to turn it on now and we're going to see if this is really some dodgy foreboding.
So yeah, this was the first time I turned it on, and obviously there was going to be problems, so I had to do a bit more soldering and figuring it out, just a few bits and bobs, and then after that, hopefully it's going to be happy days.
So after sorting a couple of problems, it is now ready to turn on for the last time. Hopefully. For the first duration of its life, it's going to be plugged into this backup battery power supply. So let's turn it on. So hopefully from now on it's not going to turn off. Now you can see the clock is ticking over at the bottom. So what I need to do now is turn this up a little bit and get it reasonably quick. That's nice and speedy. So now we're at about 1,000 clocks per second. So yeah. So it is now counting and it's not going to stop for a very long time. There are a lot of improvements that I plan to do to this and I will do as time moves on. There seems to be a tiny little problem on one of the top rows, but I'm not in a massive rush to fix them because the sun will run out of energy before those even utter an idea of ticking over. Oh yeah, I nearly forgot. This is a music tech channel, so I've added an audio output so we can listen to what the clock sounds like. So I did a builder's live stream on Friday night, putting this together basically whilst I was filming it. But at the end, we had a little chat about kind of some key times and stuff that these will trigger over. And it's pretty ridiculous. For instance, the first number on the second row is going to tick over every week or so. But the first number on the third row is going to tick over once every 100 million years or so. So yeah, we're going to just sit back, relax and enjoy the show, I guess. If I'm lucky enough to see out this cold, mundane and empty existence, I may be lucky enough to see maybe the 14th number tick over once or twice. So yeah, it really makes you feel relatively small. How awesome is that? So this is the Google counter. I'm really excited by it because just even the look and the presence of it is just really impressive, and it really has turned out exactly how I was hoping it was going to. It is by no means perfect, and I'm going to look at improving it as time goes on. The next thing that I need to do to this is sort of reduce the power consumption. I'm going to do this by strobing all of the LEDs. I need to figure out how to do that with minimum modifications as possible. I'm probably actually going to redesign the cards potentially at some point, and then also the power supply just to make it a little bit more bomb-proof, because right now it's holding on by a thread. Schematics and Gerber files are available over on my website, and the schematic of this currently is more than adequate for you to just build, you know, one of your own like 10 counters or 20 counters and stuff like that. I cannot thank my patrons over on Patreon enough for supporting things like this, and it is going in the museum of everything else. So when this whole crazy thing that's happening right now is over, you can actually come and see it for yourself. And if you want to support projects like this and the museum and stuff, which will be opening soon, then please go and check out my Patreon, because there's loads of vlogs and stuff like that. And there is even a direct recording of the Google counter over there, so you can download that and use it in a song if you really want to. I don't know why you would, but you never know, you might want to have a little bit of Google counter just in the background, just chilling out. And yeah, I've been Look Mum No Computer. If you like this kind of stuff, don't forget to subscribe, and remember, don't be scared to try it. Maybe don't build this though. Maybe not. How cool is that? It's running off batteries right now. It's not going to last forever, but... Oh, yeah. Toodaloo!